I have both figures from Wave 4 of the 90s. Power of the Force Star Wars toys. Action figures. Two very main characters, though. So let's start with Han Solo in Carbonite here. Possibly the biggest accessory here included in these kind of basic figures of 1996. Of course, these both will be from Return of the Jedi. On the back of the card, you can see the start of the Shadows of the Empire campaign with the toys on the back. Just trying to drum up some hype with Star Wars, bringing the toys back, getting the special editions made, all leading to those prequel movies. We got the bio on the back. You can pause and read all about Han Solo here. Talking a lot about the Carbonite situation. So still a little bit of the wide shoulder, extra strong looking appearances with these. Not too bad, but he is pretty broad. I like the big tall hair for him, but it's a pretty simple looking face. Of course here he just kind of had his shirt without his vest kind of look. He has his stripies down his pants. No gun holster or anything, because again he just kind of been frozen in the Carbonite. Still has his boots. Comes with one of Jabba's guys' guns that he did use in the Sarlacc pit kind of battle. You can kind of see, so it's alright. I really liked this blaster as a kid playing with these. It was a cool shape. Obviously not Han Solo's typical gun, but I liked to have them use it like they kept it because it was just too cool to use. And then the big accessory, the entire Carbonite block. So the original Star Wars figures did have this kind of Carbonite Han. Didn't come with a blaster though, just the block of Carbonite. But here in the 90s we got the correct pose with the hands up. And the old toy didn't have that. On the sides, kind of decal stickers got stuck in. They're all the same except one side has the light, like he's being let out of the Carbonite. And then on the back there's like a spot to hook the figure so you can kind of keep the figure in the block like he's inside there. Kind of storage or play, I guess, that he's in there. Handy if you're kind of messing around doing that. But they're pretty well done and you can just keep them separate. Just have the block and kind of display. Still have the figure to mess with. Here's the vintage collection Carbonite block that's a little smaller, so I guess they just kind of maybe went a little too big with the 90s toy one. And then of course on the side the panels are molded instead of just stickers. But you can't clip the figure on the back, so it's also magnetic, I think. Or at least this particular one because it came with that Jabba playset thing. But just to compare the looks of them, not real bad on accuracy for these bigger 90s one. A little cheaper to get a hold of. Honestly, compared to the vintage collection one, not really outclassed that much. Kinda looks a little sloppy on the vintage collection. Didn't have the printing and some of the body parts are actually older. I mean, this is the vintage collection. He still just has the leg that just kind of goes up and down, just like this 90s figure. But a few other points of articulation that the 90s one isn't going to have. I would almost say the 90s decal on the pants is better just because you can see the individual bits clear. It's a little muddled on this one. It just kind of looks like a plain yellow stripe instead of being the individual lines like in the movie. And the heads, I mean, it's kind of up to what you prefer. I probably have a little nostalgia lenience towards the 90s one. This isn't that impressive of a face. Possibly a little bit better. That's your call. And then we have my favorite Luke Skywalker figure from this time as a Jedi Knight. Like my main Star Wars figure toy of the time. Sweet movie pic on the side. Same back card, but then he has his little Jedi explaining bio on the back. This will just be from the beginning of the movie on Tatooine. A little bit different black outfit from the end of the movie facing off against Vader and the Emperor. But we can see the gloved hand, which would actually be after that scene because he gets the robotic hand damage. So it's a little bit of a mix. This kind of suggests the Tatooine, but then the glove is kind of the Return of the Jedi, so a little of both. Got that Luke face that, again, difficult actor to capture the likeness of, but I kind of like this head for some mysterious reason. Got the tall boots. Ooh, nice platforms. But he also kind of has his cloak thing that's just like a hard plastic piece. So you just kind of put him inside, up into the hood, and you just kind of do his walk in there into Jabba's palace. But really this thing was just really cool as like a figure by itself for me. It was like I could use this as like a dark side ghost, you know. He just kind of looks like a so So this is a cool piece to put on Luke or use as like, ooh, there's a dark entity or something. Because I would kind of play stuff in between the movies, so you could use Darth Vader and all of them, but then I'd maybe would make up stories set after the movies. Gonna have Jedi Knight Luke facing other threats in the Imperial Remnant. But I played with him so much, I don't have his lightsaber anymore. We can see in the box how it looked, but I just have my childhood figure of him. That always bothered me. I had to kind of go back to his blue saber, so I was kind of looking around. Couldn't re-buy the same figure just for the lightsaber. But luckily later they had this release of an R2 that has the lightsaber because it kind of has the button mechanism to shoot it out. So this was my way. I just kind of get an R2 figure and a new green lightsaber for my Jedi Luke. Haha, thanks R2. And it just has that cool feature of shooting the lightsaber out. It has like a spring-loaded missile, and then the button here, these little silver things here, the top one is the spring button. That was a cool deal, that getting an extra saber, or if you lost the one. It's a little thicker here because it's kind of shaped to be the missile. So it's not exactly the same, but I think the same style of handle. I wouldn't say it's super movie accurate or anything. It doesn't have like the kind of opening of his at the top. But at least my Luke got his lightsaber back. It's a little better thick because then you can really see the color of it instead of when they're too small. But this little R2 was a little saving grace there for my little Star Wars collection, because I like to keep the figures for the collection, but I was playing with them at the time too, and I didn't want to be losing any parts, especially something very important like an important accessory, a lightsaber. There wasn't a lot of extra Jedi figures that would be coming with them like later with all the prequel Jedi. If you wanted a green saber, you had to buy a Luke Skywalker figure. He's the only character that had a green lightsaber. And so with the Han Solo figure, he came with that blaster. It's actually the same kind of shape of the one Luke kind of pulls to him with the Force in Jabba's Palace too, so I really did like this blaster. Can kind of double for that if you kind of want to recreate that kind of scene with this one, because I kind of end up with multiple characters, multiple figures of the same character. I do go on and collect the vintage collection, so maybe this is a little better lightsaber wielding Luke. You can kind of have the Luke with the blaster kind of with this figure, just to kind of represent different little scenes in the movie. But even as a later vintage collection figure, I wouldn't say this is so amazing of a facial rendering of Mark Hamill either. So again, he's a hard one to place. So you gotta kind of just take your pick. Obviously the articulation on this one way better for wielding a lightsaber than the 5 points of these old 90s figures. This is my only Han Solo figure for a long time before I kind of found the better one with the vest, but this is definitely my best Luke figure. Kind of made me skip getting like some of the Bespin and Dagobah ones as a kid because I already had Jedi Knight Luke, so still kind of cool to have in my Star Wars collection, even though it's kind of mixed with these 90s ones and the vintage collection even now, and other little Star Wars lines along the way. But if you like seeing these retro figures, that's why I like to open up and show here stuff I've had as a kid or stuff I'm collecting now to kind of finish collections, Star Wars and other 90s toy lines, because they are figures and toys from the cartoons and movies that I loved from that time period. So it's a lot of fun to see whether you had them as a kid yourself or if you're just interested in the movies and shows. It's a fun watch either way, so hopefully I'll get to see you in the next video.